Hi. Thanks for being here. It's my first time in the Beacon, so I'm very excited to be here today and share our beloved project. And my name is Lidia. I'm Catwalk's scriptwriter and production coordinator, and together with Toni Mortero and Mayra Gonzalez, who sadly couldn't make it here today, we are co-directing Catwalk. Maybe some of you remember us from last year when we were awarded the Suzanne for Best Design, which honestly was a great achievement for us. And to begin with, let's introduce a bit of the Catwalk project and where do we come from. Catwalk is an animated feature film that mixes VR, 3D, and 2D animation techniques. And the film has no dialogues, and it's a drama with hints of acid humor aimed at a +16 audience. Maria, our protagonist, is stuck in a precarious job as a call center operator, and one day after work, a friend invites her to go out partying. At the nightclub, she suffers a terrible accident, and her consciousness travels into the body of a stray cat. This is how she obtains 7 lives and 7 chances to find her path, or not, because the wildlife has its own rules too, and hunger is always lurking. She must face the next dilemma. Is it preferable to let yourself be tamed to avoid starving, or is it better to risk hunger for a free life? What would you do? This is the reflection we intend to present the audience with the story. And the story addresses the paradox of being free in tension with the need to be domesticated and work in order to fit in and survive. And well, now that some context about the project has been provided, let's go deep into our VR workflow. These are some samples of our award-winning piece, the last year one. It's actually a 2-minute teaser, and we pulled it off in about 6 weeks during the Next Lab workshop, where the project kicked off in 2024. It was produced between Quill and Blender, according to the rules of the context. Next Lab is an R&D tech lab and contest run yearly in Madrid, where participants must produce an animation piece in about 2 months, following the next workflow. It's mainly Quill for production. All modeling, animation, and effects must be in VR with Quill. And then through Alembic files, we transferred it all to Blender for post-production, for the lighting, shading, and rendering. As an R&D lab, their aim is to incorporate new tools in animation pipelines and test these disruptive pipelines in order to see how these innovations help to cut down production times. So for that purpose, we had to keep track of the hours spent in each production phase. And it was our very first contact with VR tools, and let's be honest, yes, we definitely noticed a speed up, especially in pre-production, though not so much in animation. In just 2 months, very intense ones, we managed to put together a 2-minute piece with a satisfying final look, and unexpectedly, we went beyond just a VR prototype. The hard work paid off, and Catwalk ended up as one of the Next Lab winners. And part of the prize was to pitch the project in Annecy, which we did, and we had the chance to attend the festival for the first time. Then our next step was applying to Ibermedia Next Grant, which is a funding initiative for Ibero-American animation projects that explore and experiment with innovative technologies. And so to do so, we teamed up with La Chula Films, which is Carmen Cordoba's production company, and Hilda Motion, a Brazilian production company, who were colleagues, Next Lab colleagues, and we met in Next Lab and we are still friends. We submitted our proposal to Ibermedia Next Grant, and yay, we got it. Thanks to this grant, we are currently producing a short film, which might help us go chasing for more funding afterwards to produce the whole feature film if we get lucky. Okay. Wait, abanico, it's fine. Our goal when applying to the Ibermedia Next Grant was clear. What if we could take the Next Lab workflow one step further and centralize the whole production inside our favorite framework, obviously Blender? And that leads us to the question that actually brings us here today, which is, how would it be to work in VR directly inside Blender's Viewport? Our idea was not only to optimize the workflow we inherited from NextLab by avoiding the tedious process of exporting Alembic files, but also go fully open source while promoting the inclusion of new free tools in the industry. So we decided to replace Quill with GreasePencil VR and to contribute to the development of GreasePencil VR during our production as best as we could according to our schedule and resources. And at this point, I'll hand it over to Toni, who will go into more detail about our experience developing and working with XR tools inside Blender.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. So, yeah, the same year that we participate in the Next Lab edition, Daniel Martínez Lara and Alfonso Fulgencio presented the Next Lab GreasePencil VR, which is a Blender 3.6 build that lets you jump into the Blender's Viewport and start messing around with GreasePencil using XR controllers. And as a beta tester, I tried it out, and yeah, suddenly all this process of Quill, between Quill and Blender, of exporting a LEMIX, go back to Blender, and so it just disappeared, and now the workflow was Google's on, Google's off, which is a super boost up. And yeah, I kind of figured out how to sketch a character workflow similar to the Next Lab one, but this time with all the potential of Blender and not leaving the software, which is a plus. But yeah, it's not only about optimization, because Catwalk itself has this VR aesthetic, like oddities in the modeling, inconsistencies, it just fits. But yeah, for me, it's also being able to get into a 3D scene and move things around with your hands and messing around. It's just something that makes disappear a lot of flat screen limitations that I think it's really interesting to working on. And yeah, about all of this, we decided we want to go for it, and instead of Quill, we will use Next Lab GreasePencil for our production, which Blender for us is always a big yes. But the thing is that GreasePencil VR project or development was stalled. So once we get the grant, what we did was to hire Samuel and Lázaro, which were the devs of the Next Lab GreasePencil prototype. And we tried to reactivate it and keep the flame alive and cry for help when the bugs show up. And yeah, the prototype was built in Blender 3.6, but Blender has released at that time Grease Pencil 3.0 on Blender 4.4. So first we had to migrate everything to Blender 4.4 because if not, everything that we do is outdated. So yeah, most of our things that we want to do, first we have to migrate it in Grease Pencil 3.0. Grease Pencil 3.0 brought geometry nodes into the game, which is a super powerful thing because a lot of requests that we can make to the developers, like in Quill we can do this or we can do that. For example, with add-ons like Clay Pencil or Grease Pencil Sketch, we can draw geometry directly, which is something that we are used to, and for integration between shaders and something is something like we want to do. So yeah, we start our production on 3.6, then we migrated to the 4.4, and yeah, and the thing is that animation starts and we have to have everything prepared. So yeah, it was a really pleasant and quiet month. But the funniest thing is that when we already have all these things migrated and prepared, Blender released the Blender 4.5. So it's an LTS also, and we are just like this kitten, like we just want to do something. So our plan is like finish the animation on 4.4, and then in about a month, we'll try to again migrate everything to 4.5 and have these all cool features, even in Grease Pencil about control on the thickness of the strokes and so on. So yeah, it took a toll, but I think we are managing quite well after all. Of course, we have to reduce Grease Pencil VR use in order to survive all this fucking madness. So let's talk about how we did it. This was our initial workflow. When we submitted the proposal to Ibermedia Next, and the idea was to use Grease Pencil VR for modeling characters, environments, props, and make some VFX. But this migration thing and different kind of problems make us bring back an old friend in order to get the assets done before the production starts. So yeah, the environments finally were made all in Quill because things such as sculpting, objects transformed, or even axis locking for painting walls weren't ready in GPVR. So our friend Joaquin Martinez, which is an amazing VR artist, needs to crank out multiple environments in a fast way. So switching to GPVR will him slow down so much. And we want him to shine, so let's use Quill in this case, and it was a known workflow for us because of Next Lab, so that's something that we don't have to worry about the rest of the production of this short film, which is a kind of a relief for us. And for the characters in the other place, the idea was to do everything 100% in GPVR, but again, the layout starts in kind of 2 months, so we couldn't risk losing animation work. So we decided that we will make a 3D traditional base mesh and fill it with GPVR details such as hair, clothes, and line work, and some stuff that could be rigged and animate in easy way. And yeah, in the end, it's something that animators could work with, but without losing all this work if something comes up. And yeah, the protagonist face was something that I want to do in GPVR, and yeah, except for the eyes, which are a traditional 3D setup. The eyebrows, the teeth, the tongue, and the mouth are made in Grease Pencil VR. And yeah, I made a kind of a pose library with all these mouths. And yeah, that was the more sensitive part because it was something that is going to be animated, so we had tried to prepare it a little bit better for, just not exclude it if something comes up and we have to update in some way the project. So, and you can see this is kind of a really fast workflow because this was done in one session because you are there, and it's more complicated because you have to make sure that everything works in production, but in the end it's a super fast process. And again here, to get this extra deformation on the mouth, we use lattice to mix with 3D base mesh deformation. But it's kind of a thing that, that in that case, the design part, which it's something that I will talk later, but we did it already in the next lab process. That anyway was really fast process to do. And for the cloth, which is the last thing that I've been working on, it's been so cool to use the modifiers like shrink wrap, smooth, and everything, just painting above our 3D base mesh that we are currently using in production. Just for adding some details and gaining all the Blender potential about modifiers, but also rigging stuff and so. Also, there are interesting tools that we want to manage up, like sticky grease pencil that Paulico presented last year with Cowboys projects and so, but we are still developing in so. And so our final workflow looked like something like this. In the end, Quill is used for, Quill is used for design and modeling environments and some VFX. And now with Blender, we use regular Blender for, in some way, for this 3D base for characters and props. And then with Grease Pencil VR, we just arrange a lot of details and so. And right now, our prototype works exclusively with Grease Pencil in draw mode. It's in 4.4, so geometry nodes are running. And while we are painting, you can have a mirror window in your controller, which is the whole Blender UI on your controller. And the XR controls are mapped with shortcuts like frame stepping, play button, pressure sensitivity, and we also have onion skin, which is great for animation and VFX purpose. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of a really simple tool, but again, inside Blender and getting all the potential is kind of, we want to get more features in it. And you can see in videos, I'm jumping in VR and non-VR, because it's something that when we worked in Quill, we feel it like in Quill, if you get off your Googles, there's no more Quill. You cannot keep working on your project. And in this case, it's something that even sometimes it's a little bit painful working on VR, so it's kind of a relief. You can get your Googles out and just work in the regular way. But working in VR has this physical issue. But it's kind of, this workflow inside, everything inside Blender makes a difference in that case. I mean, I think that the best option is the XR controllers more than the Googles, but of course the Googles gives you a lot of spatial awareness and so it's just a mix about two things. Our prototype is not public yet, but you can get the 3.6 version that Next Lab released, and it's just in its repository if you want to try it, and you can write us and share a little bit of tears. And so at this point, the question is, how can XR improve your workflow? Well, let's take it in a different stages. For example, in design and modeling, the thing is that when you are painting in VR, you are designing, modeling, and painting at the same time, which is a huge shift in your workflow, especially in environments. When you can just place things around, it's kind of a really good feeling of being creating things and placing things. But the thing is that VR modeling is not regular modeling or traditional modeling. As in our case, we bought the VR aesthetic, which is these imprecise models and so, but if you are trying to go super precise and super clean, well, maybe you are using the wrong medium. And another thing, this is a simulation, I put it here because it's cool, like in Blender's Viewport, but just to be aware of. Because one thing I missed a lot of working with Quill is placing your cameras in layout phase. Like, it's super easy to just grab your camera on fly and place it on its place, and yeah, you have the shot. It's a thing that now going back to Blender and these gizmo things and start working with camera rigs, it's good, but I mean, in VR, you always need kind of a gizmo or something to give you a little bit more of control. But yeah, this is totally a feature that I missed so much. And even if you use the AutoK, you can use it for kind of camera tracking, like we did in the bathroom scene. It was kind of tricky thing, but it was super easy and super intuitive to do. So yeah, it's kind of a really good point to get into. In animation, posing a rigged character in front of you in VR is kind of a thing that you have to try because it's really intuitive and so. In Quill you can rig characters, but it's kind of separating them in layers and storing in folders, like making kind of a FK hierarchy, but yeah, with a proper rig with their IKs and constraints could be totally a game changer, so it's something that we are looking for. And yeah, for VFX, maybe this is not kind of an improvement of your workflow, but it's a really good way to solve complex FX setups and by just painting them. It's another way to make effects, but for stylized purposes, it's kind of a thing because you just paint and do this kind of 2D animation, but in 3D space. It's kind of really good thing. In fact, in Quill, we've got this tool called Anim Brush, which lets you paint strokes in the air, which are looped, so you can even fake particle systems and so. It's kind of really intuitive, and this is something that we want to achieve with Geometry Node, but still we are working on other things. Maybe in the next month we get into. But yeah, it's kind of a thing. And yeah, well, here are some animated shots that we are still working on. And yeah, those are actually our playblasts. This is not a render still, but yeah, we are working on this project in a rush. We didn't sleep too much, but hopefully next year we can bring you up everything how it turns out. And yeah, another thing that I'm rushing too much, but when the animation ends, an overpaint phase comes in, where we jump into the scene. There are some issues here because it's more about what I'm seeing in my Googles is more similar to what's happening to the left viewport. I think it's because I'm using two viewports, but yeah, when animation is done, I jump into the scene and start painting things that the shader or the model didn't get up. So yeah, it's kind of one of the goals that we wanted to do with Grease Pencil VR, like just jumping into the scene. Again, here it's not the correct viewport, but yeah, I'm just painting and fixing things that the hair doesn't work by default. So yeah, it's kind of pushing things without having to prevent it in pre-production. You just jump into the scene and fix things that broke up, which is kind of more yeah, not intuitive is the word, but it's kind of easy to fix, right? And instead of going to the original asset, fix it, and then pray because everything works in the end. And yeah, this more final look that we are exploring, but again, it's just a whip, so maybe the next year will be with the whole entire project and show you how it turns out. Muy bien con esto, ¿no?
Sí.
Yeah, this another thing that is out of the topic, but yeah, we also include Kitsu in this phase of the project, which is totally recommended. If you don't use it, it's really useful, and we did it at home with a Raspberry Pi. In our case, this is the Blender Studio, which there's a talk from, I don't know if, not that year, 2 years ago, right?
Nick, I don't remember the surname, but shout out to him.
Yeah, and yeah, in our case, we are not using Flamengo, so we don't have this circular pipeline, but instead, we made our own add-on because we are not a big studio. We don't need, as I like to say, it's like using this pipeline is like driving a Ferrari to go buy some bread. So it's not necessary. We are just a little studio, so we made our own add-on, which is a publisher from Blender to Kitsu. And then we can also have a shot builder to build shots from the Kitsu, from the information that Kitsu has stored. And yeah, in the end, the edit is handmade and updated, but we are currently working on an add-on to update everything and make things, and most important of all, it's avoiding the human error. So yeah, working on, no, this is yours. Sorry.
It's fine, eh?
Ya está.
Dale.
I mean, yeah, it's it.
Just to wrap it up, saying that developing a tool while producing with that same tool has been a stressful kind of madness, but we are crazy and we truly believe in the tool's potential. So although we wouldn't really recommend it to anyone, we would totally do it again. Oui. Tech talk, tech issues. We also know that we are aware that open source software grows thanks to these small contributions from the community, and we are happy to have done our bit with Catwalk. And thank you, that's pretty much all. Thank you so much for your time.
If you have any questions, we can answer, I hope. No.
How difficult is it to rig the grease pencil?
The grease pencil thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it.
Yeah,
how hard is that?
It's not the best experience, but you can do it. Yeah. The question is how is it weight paint and rig these grease pencil strokes and so. And I think it's not the best experience in the world, but it's affordable. And also with geometry nodes, we are looking for a data transfer to just transfer the weight from the base mesh to grease pencil. And also sticky grease pencil, and yeah, geometry nodes will definitely help us in this process. But for now, we are just doing by hand, like.
El rig.
And?
The rig.
The rig. No, but yeah. That answer your question?
It sounds like I'll have to
Okay.
Have you guys tried the other VR add-ons for Blender, like Viewport, for example?
No, yeah.
The camera thing that you were talking about.
No. The question is if you have tried any other add-ons. The thing is that we are just so much stuck in developing 12 minutes of animation that we didn't get into. Today we attended to the Pico's VR talk, and we saw a lot of things that we want to try and comment with the developers. So yeah, it's something that we want to. That the only software that we used before was Quill, but yeah, we are just immersed in this VR madness, so we will try it for sure. This Freebird and yeah, kind of a lot of applications and add-ons. And that's it. Okay, next position. Thank you so much.